Hello everyone, and welcome to Google Cloud OnBoard. My name is Ify, and I'm an instructor for Google Cloud, and today we're going to talk about core infrastructures. And at any time during our live sessions, you can ask questions on our platform, and our team is standing by to answer them. So let's get started. So, of course, let's go through the agendas. So we'll talk about Module 1, introducing our Google Cloud platforms, and Module 2, we'll move on to virtual machines and the storage. Then we will have a short coffee break. I'll say, yeah, you have to get your coffee ready because you don't have the time to cook for the coffee. And then you have Module 3, which is containers and application development. That will be platform as a service. And also one of the cool things that Google really good at doing, it's the SRE stuff, which is deployment and the monitorings. All right, and of course, other than that, we also have Han, which is our customer engineer, going to show you about the quick labs. That will be a great place to do a little bit like hands-on experience. All right, let's jump into our Module 1, Introduction to Google Cloud Platforms. All right, so what is cloud computing? I mean, now we're talking about cloud, and of course, you guys are coming to join us to learn about Google Cloud Platforms, but what is cloud computing itself? So, for cloud computing, there's 5 things that you always need to mention. First, it's on-demand self-service. That means at any time you need to have any resource, you just go for it, and then you can easily to get them without asking anyone, just like a self-service. That's cloud, right? And then second, have to be like broad network access. Basically, that means anytime, anywhere, if you have internet, then you'll be able to access the platform. And then, of course, that's the resource pooling things that make our cloud providers or our platform to able to make things good, nice, and affordable for everyone to use. Because in that case, everyone is sharing the resource. For example, in US, in daytime, they need more workload, and in Asia, in daytime, we need more workload. But our night is their day. Their night is our day. So that's nice. That means we can kind of share those resources. That's great. And other than that, of course, we need some rapid scalabilities. And that's very important because now you want to use in cloud, and one of the cool things is because that can easily to scale, and we said flexible. So in this case, it's about like you can scale and also the speed of scale. So really like at the right timing, you really get up to that scale and able to go for supporting your business, and that's very important. And the final one is actually my favorite part. It's the measured service, because in that case, you only pay only for what you use. So you don't need to worry about like anything, because most of the time you just pay what you use. You don't need to have kind of like upfront fee for a lot of cost at the very beginning. No, you start something small, and then you do the nice architecting, follow our best practice, and then when you need to scale, our resource is right there ready for you. Okay, cool. So how did we get here? I mean, where are we going? So, of course, at the very beginning, it's no cloud. That's like a .com kind of age. And at the time, there's a lot of those websites coming out, and then everyone wanted to build their website. But I mean, building a website is not that super easy thing. It's actually, you need some hardwares, you need some operation systems, and then a lot of things, which is the application itself, and then build on top. Then you get those, like for example, Google Search, which is one of the cool websites from us. All right, so that's the kind of case. But I mean, how to make that happen? The most underthink things is actually need to taking care of those hardwares. So those hardwares, seriously, it's hard because I feel so hot here because I'm talking about hardwares. All right, so hardwares itself is actually, you need to keep them in those really a physical place, which is called data centers, and then most of the time it's like just right here, super hot. And it is because you need to actually do a lot of computations, and when you do computations, yes, there's a lot of heat coming out, and you need to do some coolings. So there's a lot of things you need to take in care. You make sure the computation works nicely, you need to make sure the power supply is nice, and also you need to make sure the cooling works nicely as well. So that's a lot of things you need to take in care. So then move later on, we have some data center, you can actually host your hardware there, and then they will just help you to taking care. So that's the first stage. Then the next stage is actually those clouds right now, which is virtualized. Because in this case, what you're actually going to do, it's because everything will be virtualized. Because when you virtualize, what happens? Pretty simple. Now things will be easy because everything what you get is no longer those hardware stuff. No, everyone just get the virtual machine at the beginning, and of course you can decide what kind of the operation system you wanted, and then you can start to build those applications on top of those operation systems. And the final one is Google Cloud. All right, so the serverless or full automated, because we believe if you still need to build a lot of things which is on top of virtual machines, that's too slow. Why is that? Because there's still a lot of things you need to take in care. But if you wanted to move on faster, or you wanted to start to even like analyze some data, machine learning kind of stuff, yeah, you need some better ways to taking care and then to manage all those things. So that we go for full automate and serverless. So that's what we believe. Every company at the end become a data company. So how to become a data company? Of course, you still need to taking care of your workload. And then there's a whole bunch of ways you can do. You can have infrastructure as a service, having a VM, and then or you can go with Kubernetes engine, which is more like hybrid. You have something in between the platform as a service and infrastructure as a service. And for the platform as a service, it's App Engine. So that will be something cool we're also going to introduce. And cloud functions. I think you just heard the guest speakers talk about the cloud function is something pretty nice because you don't need to taking care any kind of like workload under the scene. You just write that functions and everything will taking care for you. And then even my favorite part still, the managed services. So the managed services will be great because that one, we taking care of your applications instead of your whatever kind of things that you wanted to do. Okay, so no more just the virtual machines, but you just go for it, which is a software as a service. All right, so how to actually let us support all those things? I mean, even just Google itself, how we actually to able to support everything here, it's because we have those huge kind of infrastructures, which is really something under the scene. We have 140 points of presence, which is the network access point. And then you can see there we have 14 subsea cables, which is direct invest from Google. And that's amazing because this is the map that you can see. We just connect all the worlds together. So basically, if you're going to build things on top of Google Cloud platforms, it's very easy for any customer in the world to easy to find you. And they will have the good latency, basically means very good user experience at the same time. So, of course, that's one of the strengths. And I do believe this is something really cool. All right, and at the same time, instead of just the network, you also need computation. So what we had, of course, it's the data center. I mean, if you imagine there's a photo and then there's a whole bunch of servers on it, tell you what, that kind of photo, it's just a very tiny corner for our data centers. We actually have whole bunch of them. So for a data center, we have a specific term called zone. So you have a zone here. For example, in London, we have 3 zones. That means 3 data centers. And then combined together, it's called a region. And with multiple regions combined together, we call that multi-region. For example, Europe is a multi-region, US is a multi-region, and Asia is a multi-region. So those are the regions that we have right now at this moment. And just keep looking at and then keep doing the update and check out documents because actually this change all the time. Almost like every week, every month, there's some new updates. And right now we actually have, just going everywhere. Like you see in Delhi, there's going to have one more. In Melbourne, we have in Doha, which is in Middle East. And then even in Uzor, that will be in Poland. So those are the cool things that's happening and it's just around the world. So basically, if you build things on Google Cloud Platform, just easily bring them to everywhere. All right, so of course, we have so much data center and we kind of actually consuming like 2% of the whole world electricities. So of course, we need to make sure we have the responsibility and have the commitment to the environment. So we have those kind of things like 100% carbon nature since 2007, and then we have one of the most largest world's corporate purchase for those renewable energies. And then, of course, we also get the ISO 14401. That's the one that actually tells us, oh, we have a commitment to our environment. And of course, we love open source. That's we said most of the time, and that's true. Because basically, if you talk about anything with big data, yes, we have a lot of paper published before, and then the Hadoop, which is the very famous one, that's a big data open source. You can use that big data open source, write the codes, and run here on Google Cloud Platform. For example, Dataproc is the one, or the HBase, which is Apache HBase, which is also modeled after our Bigtable paper, and that can run here on Cloud Bigtable. So those are the things it's API compatible. And of course, you also have TensorFlow, Kubernetes, Forseti. Those are 3 different open source that really you can just do it and then run them here on Google Cloud Platform. And even because we know that multi-cloud, hybrid cloud is just the trend. So of course, we need to go for it. We have Stackdriver to monitor everything, and then we have Kubernetes engine to taking care of all the workload. And of course, security, we tell you that every single layer we're taking care. And basically every single data you're going to keep here in Google is encrypted. So that's why we said Google is the nice place to build and test and deploy and even have a highly secure, reliable, and scalable infrastructures. All right, so let's check what we have. Compute, storage, and of course, network is something under the scene, but then once you set up all those things, having a workload, now you might want to move on to the next case, which is data, right? So you might want to take care of big data and then have the machine learnings. All right, so now let's talk about some more deep things. All right, so the first thing is about the resource hierarchies. So this is actually something very important because when we talk about security, it's not about like we taking care of everything because that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense that we're taking care of everything because that means we will lock you to do nothing you can do. So because you have the freedom to build your applications, yes, then that will be a shared responsibilities. So more we taking care, then you have more restrictions. That's basically the ideas. If you're using a managed service, then that basically you have to work on a framework, and that brings you more restrictions. But then when you use on infrastructure as a service, you have more freedom, but then for the security, you need to take care more. So what's the hierarchies here? So here at Google Cloud is actually something very special. We have the org nodes, which is the top, and then we have the folders, which is representing those teams and departments. And then we have the project, which is actually containing those resources. And of course, project is the one taking care of all the billings, and then every single service is actually associated to the project. All right, and project itself, the name you can define by yourself, but all the rest is all taken care of here, having a global unique names. For the folder parts, yes, that's one of the cool things because we said, yes, now you're going to bring your organization comes in. So in this case, you still need to want to having some boundaries. Okay, so that means different resources belong to different projects, and then those projects belongs to different teams. So you might want to have those folders to separate those things. So you can have folders in the folders. And here are some kind of things that you do want to know that we will have some organization admin, and in that case, always recommend 2. All right, and of course, we also have the project creator. That's the one that you're actually going to give it to those budget holders. So then they can make the decision to give it to create a new project and then start to getting some resource, and every single resource you pay as you go. And there's an example of an IAM resource hierarchies, and then we told you that yes, you can set up the policies on different layers, and each layers you can do something like some definitions on it, and then they might going to conflict to each other, but at the same time, there's a policy here that you want to see. The point number 3, a less restrictive parent policy overrides a more restrictive resource policies. And of course, this one, it's the best practice. Of course, this is something that we always follow. And the easiest way to memorize that will be said, once the door is open, it's open. So that's the IAM things. All right, by the way, I think at this moment, you will see some pop-up on our platform asking a few questions. So if you do have a little bit time, I mean, you can just focus on my speech, but at the same time, you might want to answer that to test a little bit that you really understanding something, and then at the end, we were going to answer those questions. All right, so now have a really quick demo for the resource manager because we wanted to see the entire architectures. So let's see this one, managed services. All right, so now you can see this is my organization called ep.tw. All right, so this is the organization node, this is all the folders, and it looks just nice because you have the corp data, you have the finance team, you have the games. I really wish I can own these games. All right, and then I have the network. So on each layers, if you click on it, you can define some policies here. Okay, so this is the way that you can do some project level things, to put some policies on it, or you wanted to go for some folder levels, or you can go for the organization levels. So there are different ways you can do, okay, different ways you can do, and then they will go with heritage, okay. So good, so that's the demo, and then we still have something to talk about it, which is IAM. All right, so IAM is one of the very important things here because IAM basically just tells you that who can do what on which resource, and that's very important because what's the who? Basically every single user. Yeah, all the user here in your project doing something, that's a who. And at the same time, service account, we will talk about that later. It's those service and those servers. And of course, you can use a group if you want to. And if you bring your organizations in, then you're no longer using Gmail, you're actually using a G Suite or even something we call the cloud identity. So that's the who. Then can do what? Basically define a role in the organizations. So you define who can do what. So for example, you want this person join your company as an engineer or join as a manager or join as a network engineer. So that's the case. So now you wanted to define who can do what. So this is the can do what part. And then applies to what resource. That's what we said. You can apply to specific service or a project or a folder or the entire organizations. So these are three kinds of IAM roles that we have. We have the primitive one, which is applies to the project-wide things, and then we have the predefined one, which is go for those specific services, and then we have the custom one that you can just do some customized kind of roles. All right, so this is the primitive one. You have owner, editor, viewer, and I'll say most of the time, this is not the case. Why is that? You feel this one, sounds nice, 1, 2, 3, free pick one. But if you're going to do IAM, we said IAM is once the door is open, it is open. So the best practice is called least privilege. Okay, so you have to make sure you always give the minimum permission to those specific users or even a group of users. So this might be not the case, I would say, most of the time. All right, so for predefined, that's good. So you're just going to use those things to allow some of the users to do something, and then maybe a network engineer to get some network permissions, and then someone like a developers, they will get something else. And you can do customize if you want to, so that specific roles, and then choose what kinds of permissions you can do. All right, and what's a service account? So service account, basically, it's a control for server-to-server interactions, and this is something very important, because in this case, that means you are not going to let your server use your credential to do something, but you're going to create something called a service account. That's an identity of your server or your service, and then they're going to use the identifications to actually go to do something. So once you create a service account, that one has an identity, and then you can start to what? Oh, you can start to put some roles on it. For example, here's an example of a service account in IAM. What we can do, for example, in project A, we have a service account one, and then you can apply or put those service account on a group of VMs. And then those VMs will have the identification, which is the service account one, to do something. But I mean, at this moment, you didn't assign any roles on it. So now, all we wanted to do is in project B, there's some data we want those VMs to able to access. But VM, they are in project A, and the project B having the data. So now we actually having the service account, and then we need to go to project B to allow or grant those roles to the service account so then they can do something. This is something like a cross-project stuff, but this is super common in most of the enterprise company. So let's do a quick demo for that. All right, so let me go through this one. Okay, so now it's in my organizations, and then now I'm going to Pokemon Go. Okay, so they are going to have a service account, and then the way you do service account, pretty simple. You just go to service account. And then now I'm going to create a service account. And this one is the service account I'm going to use for the group of VMs. And this is one I'll just say on air, demo, and it's an editor. Okay, now I have the name, and then I create it. Great. Then the second step is like getting the roles. But wait a minute. Right now, I'm actually in the game. So a little bit more the scenario. So now I have a game. I'm going to run my game servers. And then now I'm going to get in those user behavior. And I want those user behavior go to store in another project's storage. So the permission actually is what? Not here in my Pokemon Go. It's actually in the storage in a different project. So here, I don't need any roles. So just continue. And then this is a place you just defining who can use this service account. So done. So now I have this one. Okay, so the on-air demo one. So I'll just copy this one. All right, copy paste. Now I'm going to a different project. So a different project is called user behavior research. That's the one. Yes, that's the one. And then now you are in this user behavior research. And this is the place I actually want my service account have the access. So I'll go to the IAM and add this specific service account on it. And then said, okay, this guy is going to have the storage admin. Done. All right, so this is the demo. Pretty simple, right? Of course, I missed one of the steps is actually I'm going to run some VM in the Pokemon and then using that service account, and then they will have the permissions to actually access to those storage in Project B. All right, so just a little bit more things, all right, about the identity, because we talk about the IAM, and of course, IAM tell you who can do what on which resource, and that's very important. Please remember, the most important thing is least privilege, okay, least privilege. And then once the door is open, it is open. So what about the identification itself? Because the identification for the server and the service, yes, we can create service account, but about us as a user. So here at Google, either you can use Gmail or Google Groups, or you're actually going to use G Suite or even Cloud Identity, all right? So those are the ones that actually going to taking care your identifications, because those identification things, it's not part of Google Cloud. It's outside of Google Cloud, but belongs to G Suite and Cloud Identity. Or you just simply use a Gmail. It's okay. And then if you wanted to have some corporate directory, actually wanted to sync with that, yes, you can do it with Microsoft Active Directory or LDAP. Those are able to just sync to our Google Cloud platforms. Yes, that's actually able to do. All right. So interactions with Google Cloud Platform, how are you going to do that? So this is the one. We actually have 4 different ways to interact with our Google Cloud platforms. So the first one is, Google Cloud Consoles. Google Cloud Console itself is the nice web user interface, and then that's the one you see. This is the one. This is the Google Cloud Consoles. And other than the Google Cloud Consoles, of course, one of the cool things I'd always love to do is the Cloud Shell. Why is that? Because I feel like I'm a geek and I wanted to do some command line tools. But then maybe sometimes I only get the browser, then what I do, pretty simple. If you come to our Google Cloud platforms, you can always click on it. There's an Activate Cloud Shell. So you just click on it and then spend a little bit of time here just waiting for it. Then we will provision a machine, which is totally free, but it's very tiny little one, but very nice for you to really interactive with our platforms. So that's a nice thing that you always easy to do. And by the way, just a little bit more intro. This one you can easily see. This is what's the user, so they get who I am, and then know what's the project I'm working on it, so they know what are those resources going to attach to it. All right, good. So that's the Cloud Shell, and of course the SDK, which is those command line tools, you can easily to download to just do it everywhere if you want to, and then of course you can have the service account or your user account to kind of like install and get it. And the third one will be more for those administrators. So you can easily to monitor your usage, your metrics, or even how many machines you're running right now with the mobile app. And that's available for iOS and Android. And of course, the last one, this one is the REST-based API. And of course, that's one of the things if you're actually going to have a platform to kind of connect to it, and then you're going to use some program to control, to provision some of our resources, then that's the way you do. Okay, so of course, we still have some documents on it, and then now you guys are doing cloud. So if you're doing cloud, of course, always remember that things are always the latest versions. When you're doing cloud, there's no one specific version most of the time, but you're actually going to always get the latest update. And then you don't feel that when we're doing some upgrade or update. So always go and check our documents online every day. Hope so. All right, so now this is actually our first module. So now we're going to talk about our questions. So the first question is this one. It's, if a Google Cloud IAM policy gives you owner permissions at the project level, your access to a resource in the project may be restricted by a more restricted policy on that resource. Ooh, this one I kind of believe is not testing your knowledge about our technology, but it's actually testing your English. That's what I feel. Okay. All right, so the answer for this one is false. So basically, just memorize what's the most important things. It's once the door is open, and it's opened, okay? Once the door is open, then it's open, all right? So that's more like a whitelist, I'll say. It's a whitelist. All right, so let's see the second questions. So the second question is like, all Google Cloud resources are associated with a project. The answer is true. All right, wow, this one have like 84% correct. Yes, of course, very important. Everything have to attach to a project, and the answer is true. Yes. And then the next one, let's see. What's the next questions? So service accounts are used to provide which of the followings? And then I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options. And then the answer is all of the above. And then you know what? Basically, if you go for exam, anytime you see that option called all of the above, that means your teacher is kind of lazy and don't want to think about it. What's the ambiguous wrong answer? So you just get the all of the above. Sorry, that's me. All right, so I hope you guys really actually get the correct answers. And then of course, here we have a lot of those statements, all right? So make sure that's something you do. All right, so now we are still going to have our module 2 later on. So thanks for joining our digital event, and please stay tuned for the next modules.